NASA's 93BN plan to colonize the moon. Have you heard people talking a lot about going back to space recently? It's a new space race is happening. Right now, there are only 100 people left in the competition to go on a one-way trip to the red planet, Mars. Imagine if we become a civilization that can explore space. It sounds way more exciting than if we stay on Earth. To make this space dream come true, NASA, the space agency, is doing some cool stuff. Last year, they gave a lot of money to a company to create a 3D printer that can build a base on the moon. But why are they using this technology, and what does it mean for us on Earth? Imagine a day at Cape Canaveral, where rockets launch into space. Going to space is cool again, and some say we can do amazing things like mine special minerals and make sure humans have a good future. But NASA is not just thinking about the future. They are also focused on good old-fashioned science. Enter Project Artemis. It's a new space station, but on the moon. The idea is to let astronauts do experiments and research on the moon's surface. They want to practice living on other planets, like Mars. The company in charge of making this happen is called ICON, and they're experts in 3D printing. They started working on this in November 2022. ICON just got a $57 million deal to work on 3D printing tech for building houses and structures on the moon as part of the Artemis project. They named it Project Olympus, with a Greek theme. ICON plans to show off their tech in 2026, and the first moon trip using it is set for 2025. The co-founder thinks this contract is a big deal because it's the first time humans will build stuff on another planet. They'll use 3D printing to make homes, roads, and launch pads. Some people doubt if 3D printing will work well, especially since it hasn't lived up to its promises on Earth. An expert explains that 3D printing has actually made progress, especially with better lasers and robots. Now, they can use more materials like concrete and metal, making stronger stuff. This progress has changed how things are designed, with a focus on being useful rather than complicated. Even though 3D printing is catching on for space projects like NASA's, it's not doing as much on Earth for construction. The pandemic's effects on the economy are still causing problems, despite the improvements in 3D printing. Right now, the United States is working hard to avoid a situation where it can't pay back the money it owes. People in charge are saying that if this happens, it will be disturbing for everyone in the country. It could mean that the cost of borrowing money for things like buying a house or car goes up, and people will have to pay more on their credit cards. This is especially tough because many families already use credit cards to pay for everyday things. Saving money is also tough right now because the usual ways people invest their money, in stocks and bonds, didn't do well last year. But some experts found that things like art can actually go up in value even more than houses or stocks, especially when prices for everything are going up a lot. There's a company called Masterworks that lets regular people invest in expensive art pieces from famous artists like Picasso and Banksy, but they don't have to pay the full price. Even though the world's financial markets had some big losses, Masterworks sold 11 paintings, and each one made money for the people who invested. On a different note, there's a company called Iconics that started in 2017 and has become a leader in using cool technology called 3D printing to build things. They built the first 3D printed house in the United States in 2018, and now they're working on making 100 houses in Texas using this technology. NASA, the space agency, gave them money to figure out how to 3D print stuff, and they even made a prototype base that astronauts use to practice on Earth. Because they were so good at it, NASA asked them to build stuff on the moon. If you're wondering why NASA is putting so much money into this new technology, it's because there's a lot of competition on Earth. People are used to building things in certain ways, and 3D printing had to prove it could do things better. Now, they're taking this technology to the moon, which is pretty exciting. However, there is no other good option. Every construction site must be able to do things on its own, because bringing lots of equipment or special building crews is not practical. This is why we strongly support using 3D printing. It's the best way of building things in a whole new way. But before we get into the exciting details, there's an important thing to remember. The moon's gravity is much weaker than Earth's, making things act differently during 3D printing. Professor Attila and their team made an equipment for the European Space Agency. This tool can make tools like screwdrivers in space. They use a special metal wire to control hot material very precisely, taking advantage of the fact that there's no gravity. By pointing the wire at 3 mirrors, they create a powerful beam of energy, kind of like a death ray, that melts the wire. Then, they can use this melted material with the wire and surface tension to make things. The idea behind 3D printing on the moon is to use moon stuff instead of bringing things from Earth. The Icon system uses lunar regolith, which is basically the dust and broken rocks on the moon's surface mixed with a kind of mortar. This mix is then layered by the 3D printer to make structures. To make sure everything sticks together, they need a specific resin or chemical that can be hardened by the moon's sunlight, which is different from Earth's because the moon doesn't have an atmosphere. This hardening process is similar to making strong structures from molds at the dentist's office. But going to space is full of things we don't know. That's what makes it exciting, but it also means there are risks. People wonder if the structures we build on the moon can really protect us from the harmful radiation there and handle the super hot and super cold temperatures that happen during a lunar day. For instance, discover the exciting vision of Project Olympus, a groundbreaking plan to change the way we explore space by using 3D printing to build homes on the moon. When you think about it, the idea of people living in moon houses in the next 10 years might seem a bit unbelievable. But if we were to start this moon adventure today, it could realistically take about 50 years before we see fully functional moon towns using this new method. Thinking about space exploration history, past missions, not only taught us about outer space, but also helped create lots of cool things we use every day. Stuff like computer mice, memory foam mattresses, and cordless power tools all came from space exploration. With Project Olympus, we might learn new things that can help us build things better on Earth. Even though it might not bring us modern gadgets, Project Olympus could help us build things in a way that's better for the planet. The idea is to use materials that are already on the moon, so we don't have to bring a bunch of stuff from Earth. This idea might be really useful, especially in places where it's hard to find the usual building materials. The idea of reusing waste from building could also help us make construction on Earth more eco-friendly and efficient. Looking ahead, smart people think that by the year 2064, we could have about 12 towns on the moon. People might even go on vacations there with their families. But there's a challenge. We need to show regular builders on Earth that 3D printing is a great way to build. If you liked and enjoyed the video and want to know more about the future of construction, be sure to subscribe our channel and hit the bell icon for more future updates.